I myself am a survivor of domestic violence, and I did not realize it at the time. The people that were part of my life then, that was the norm. I think there's a lot with the LGBTQ community that people try to normalize because they look at us as different. This is the life you're living, so this is what happens. Why would anybody want to come forward if that's what they think?
Hello, and welcome to Power Beyond Pride, a queer change-making podcast bringing you voices and ideas from across our fierce and fabulous spectrum to transform our world. I'm your co-host, Shane Lukas, lifelong queer liberation and bodily autonomy activist, also just a big pile of ginger trouble, and I'm proud of it. I'm also the advocate expert and owner of a great idea, and your co-host for today's queer change-making journey.
And I am Mattie, Bynum, your co-host. I am the hostess with the mostest, and as we just stated before, the epitome of Southern charm. I am as I say I am. And in this episode, we are talking to the human rights advocate and community leader, Fletcher, the director of victim services of the Family Service of the Piedmont in North Carolina.
Stephen joined the Family Service of Piedmont as the LGBTQ+ outreach specialist and now holds the role of director of victim services. Welcome to the Power Beyond Pride podcast, Stephen.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And we're talking about Southern charm here. And for people who might not know, Mattie and I are just down the road from you here in Central North Carolina. So I have to know one thing, because I'm not originally a North Carolinian. What is one thing about North Carolina that you love?
I'm not originally from North Carolina. I would say, though, I'm from Florida, but I would say probably where I'm at, the weather, because it's right in the dead center of the state. So it's what I'm used to.
I mean, I love it. Other than pollen season, I'm actually on board with that. Yep. I think pollen season, that's the only downside, is the great pollinating or whatever it is, the pollen apocalypse, a pollen apocalypse. I don't know, something like that. Anyways, coming up with words here, but we're going to do that. I'm glad. Weather in North Carolina is certainly a good reason, as well as the people. I think the people are pretty awesome too. So I think that's also good. Just like, thank you for joining us today.
Well, Stephen, let me tell you, right? It's so interesting. I would definitely want to start our evening off with this first question because I'm a history person all day. So history is always my favorite thing. So I guess my first question would be is what has inspired you to pursue a career in human services? Because that's such a broad spectrum. So what got you into it?
I had this conversation with my supervisor today, actually this morning, and I don't know that I picked human services. It picked me. I originally went to school. I went to Mars Hill College and originally went to school in music and got 2 years in, decided to change my major, changed it to psychology, and it's been all uphill or downhill, however people want to look at it from there.
What instrument? Like an instrument, vocal? What was your...
I have not picked it up for 20 plus years, but I used to play French horn and I do sing as well.
That is the fancy horn.
That.
Yeah, that is the fancy horn. I think we can all agree the fancy horn is the French horn.
Yeah, that's the fancy horn.
It's got all the curves, and we like curves. We do like curves. You know what? We're all about the curves. We're about the curves. We're about fancy French horns, and we're about queer folk. Which brings me, Stephen, to you started in LGBTQ+ outreach, right? That's amazing. We've seen that a large number of LGBTQ+ community members are victims of domestic abuse, human trafficking, and child abuse. And I think it's a really powerful thought because we don't really talk about it very much. What has been your biggest challenge reaching queer community members?
The stigma that comes with working with law enforcement. I myself am a survivor of domestic violence, and I did not realize it at the time. I just thought that was the way the relationship was. It was with the people that I was around and the people that were part of my life then. That was the norm. It was very much the norm. It was very toxic. And I honestly didn't even call myself a survivor until I started working for Family Service of the Piedmont because I didn't recognize it myself. And so I think a lot of it is I think there's a lot with the LGBTQ community that people try to normalize because they look at us as different. And I think they try to normalize that. This is the life you're living. So this is what happens. And I think that puts, why would anybody want to come forward if that's what they think?
That's powerful. When you did share with friends and community members, like, how did they respond, if you don't mind me asking?
A lot of people didn't know, because I'm very transparent person, open book, but there was just a lot that I did not share about it. It was my second same-sex relationship that I was in. And so it was honestly, if you will, put a bad taste in my mouth, if you will. But people were supportive. Some people were like, oh, I didn't realize that he could have done that. Or that didn't seem like him. And it never does. Some of the abusers are some of the best actors in the world.
Yes, they are. They really are. And I say that because my first relationship was domestic. And I never forget, in my first relationship, after his parents and my parents, because we were teenagers, he was significantly older than me, but I remember his mom was like, you made him do it. He would have never done those things to anybody else. So I definitely hear what you're saying. Like, it's amazing how not only do they not see their own fault in it, but the people that surround the abuser will really surround them as if they're the victim. And then ostracize the actual victim as if they're the villain for coming forward.
I was going to say that happens all the time.
That actually leads us into my next question, because this question really, it resonated with me when I was looking at our questions for it. And basically, with you having the education that you have, how do you explain to people who are not a part of the LGBT community that there is still domestic violence in our community? There is still abuse in our community. Sex trafficking and trafficking, abuse, and that's not something that we ask for or we create, but it happens just as much as it happens in the heterosexual community. How do you explain that to people so that they understand it?
Well, when I think about my own coming out story and growing up, the LGBTQ people, we face unique vulnerabilities that other people don't face. Family rejection, discrimination, lack of cultural sensitivity. We're more susceptible to abuse and exploitation because of those reasons. And so when I explain it, I really don't explain it any different than what would I explain it to somebody else. Because if you're hit by somebody or emotionally abused by somebody, you're abused, point blank, period. It doesn't matter, male, female, non-binary. It makes no difference at all. And so I just explain it. We're people just like anybody else. And when you isolate us, when our own families have isolated us sometimes, we try to find affirming spaces. And sometimes that creates environments that remain unchecked. And that's where domestic violence can step in, and even human trafficking.
No, it's absolutely very powerful. And one of the things I know in working with different communities who've experienced violence, intimate partner violence, IPV, domestic violence, the law enforcement parameters for domestic assault and intimate partner violence, that they are sometimes skewed so that it can displace the conversation a bit. And again, I'd like to know your experience with that, because you mentioned one of the stigmas lies around law enforcement participation. And there's many reasons community members are resistant to engaging with law enforcement. But one of the challenges is that when you have a same-sex couple or a non-binary couple at times having, let's say, hostilities of some sort, or perhaps one of them engaging in violence, that can go reported as a roommate scenario rather than be treated in the courts as a domestic or intimate partner engagement. Mm-hmm. And that changes the dynamic of their ability to seek protection, other orders. Can you speak a little bit to that? Because I know that's one of the experiences in cross jurisdictions, not just here in North Carolina, but in varying places, that this comes up.
So it wasn't too long ago that North Carolina, the forms that victim service agencies used were all made for heterosexual couples. It was just a few years ago that they put the same-sex couples on there. There were circumstances in which survivors were denied a protective order. And what I found is it was due to a lack of understanding. And 9 times out of 10, that's what I've always found is it's the ability to understand, but the inability to want to understand. And with a particular case that I had, we attempted to get one. The documentation it was the old documentation because the state hadn't rolled out anything new. And so I used the old documentation. That's what we were told to do. And so the protective order was denied. And it was based off of honestly, the lack of understanding from the court staff that were overseeing the case and the judge and that was overseeing. What I can say is there was some work that took place. I did some work with some of the legal partners that were involved, spoke to the judge. We were able to appeal and we did secure the protection order that same day. It was just a little bit about me pushing back and providing the necessary education that needed to be provided.
Wow. That's all I can say right now. I do want to say, if you don't mind holding tight with us for a little bit, Stephen, we do need to go take a short break real quick. Keep listening because we will be right back with the beautiful Stephen Fletcher and this amazing journey.
Welcome back. This is Power Beyond Pride, a queer change-making podcast, and I'm your host, Shane Lukas, along with my co-host, the fantastic and fabulous Southern charming Mattie Bynum. We are here with our crusader, Stephen Fletcher, and we were talking about what it means to respond and to think about how law enforcement responds to our communities. And it's really important, again, to have advocates like you in our communities doing this work, Stephen. So could you share a little bit about how your identity as a gay person has influenced your approach to leadership?
It really has forced me to be authentic. That when my coming out was many years of lies, like a lot of people, but I lead with authenticity and with being genuine. Again, I'm very transparent. If my staff want to try something, I'll try it with them. If I notice that they're having a bad day, I send them home with no penalty. It's just take the day. There was somebody who did a favor at work for me yesterday, and I told them to take today off. And they didn't do that. They came in and did their job because that's what we do. But I feel like it really has given me the opportunity to just be authentic and to be myself. And I think that because of that the people that I work with and within leadership in Guilford County and the surrounding area are very accepting of that because it's part of who I am. It's not who I am.
I understand that. I definitely agree with that. And so I do want to ask, and I honestly, this question, it makes me laugh in a way because I don't really care for it, but I do want to know, as a leader in the community, has your lifestyle created challenges that you have to face being in the leadership role?
I think where I work now, no. I certainly do think that there are people that work for other organizations that might look at me a different kind of way, but that's their feelings and that's their issues to deal with, not mine. And so I don't even think about it because I've got my own stuff to deal with. And that's something that I'm worried about.
Well, it's really powerful you sharing that because we do intersectional work, right? When we are working in spaces that are involving our queer community members, but yet not centered necessarily in queer liberation or that queer work, we are doing coalition building. And oftentimes in places like North Carolina and many places around the country that are not, we'll just say, more progressive, it can involve doing collaborative work with organizations where you will face moments of, hey, we're in this to address food disparity. We're in this to address how our law enforcement system is responding to IPV. Like these all being very real things, you're still going to end up negotiating and navigating with people who may have a shared outcome investment, but maybe not be as welcoming or accepting as you want them to be. And in some ways, that takes a lot of courage to step into that space and do that. So I think, to your point, it's wonderful that you're able to see that amongst your team and in your space and bring that out into community members who may not always understand or give you that level of affirmation. And I think many of our organizers certainly share that experience. Are there support systems that you lean on when you just don't have it? One of the challenges that I have as an organizer is always, hey, some days I'm just not ready. It's the wrong day to hit me up with something that might be more homophobic or transphobic. And I'm like, this is not the moment to do that. Are there systems or suggestions you have for how people as organizers can handle those feelings? Because they do come up.
I think it's, for me, I have to stay in the moment that is happening, not get ahead of myself, not worry about the things that I did earlier in the day that maybe I could have done differently or handled differently. I try to do, I think prep work, as much prep work that you can do, the better. And I think it's just a matter of, just like this podcast, you deliver questions and I come up with responses. So it's it's just a matter of, you have to assess the situation and break it down to see what you need to do for yourself to take care of yourself.
Well, are you able to find ways to build bridges? Like, what is a method you use to build bridges with an organization that, and I'll say this again, like there are many faith-based organizations, for example, or other organizations who sometimes have a more hostile approach when it comes to inclusive practices. Some are wonderful and some are not. And so, but when you're doing community work, you are sometimes working across lines. Are there methods you've been able to employ to build bridges?
I think a lot of the community partners we work with are quote unquote inclusive in their own way. And there's some kind of basic foundation of knowledge that they have. And a lot of one of my staff, actually, and this was the role that I started in, we provide technical assistance to other organizations within the area and in the state, actually. And we do training, and we do that, like LGBTQ 101 and the different identities and all the things that make us the community that we are. But we provide technical assistance for free to other organizations to provide education, because a lot of it, what I have found, it just goes to education. It's a lot of people their belief system is based off of what they grew up with, not because they educated themselves. And so by me taking the time out of, no matter if I'm like in the mood to explain something or not, me taking the time out to provide that education, that way there's less ignorance about how to handle situations.
But I'm going to be honest with you. The one thing I do love about being a Southerner is we know how to call out the truth in a nice, beautiful way. So in calling out said truth, Stephen, do you feel, because it's beautiful that you partner and teach and support, but do you feel the same love and support back from your community and from the state and from people in general?
Yes and no.
Okay.
And I think that there have been a lot of people that have allowed me to be bold with my authenticity. There's a lot of people who do not feel that this is how I feel. I'll say that, since if I feel that way. I do feel that there are people who do support me and that have my back, they've been mentors to me. But I also feel like there's still just a lot of ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it's going to take even more time than what has already been spent providing education.
Oh, yeah.
So, but yes and no. It depends if you were to ask about specific people. I can say that. And then the areas in which I know that I feel like I'm not going to be as supported, I've just learned how to navigate that in a different way where I can still get what needs to be done without that becoming a thing or for them, because again, that's their issue to deal with, not mine.
Yeah. What I'm hearing you say is like you learn to negotiate those spaces, right? That is the way for queer people. One thing we've learned to do is negotiate those spaces, learn, who our accomplices are within the space, and then figure out how to, navigate, especially again, when we're doing coalition building, we're sometimes working for a shared purpose, but it's not we'll just say that Venn diagram has some non-overlap and some overlap. And being able to do that is to feel supported in these spaces. And so the queer community in general, we talk about queer community a lot. And so in your work, again, you're talking about violence, you're talking about trafficking, you're talking about spaces that I think a lot of queer people really wrestle with in conversation. Do you feel among queer people that like elevating that into the priorities is a big challenge?
I do. Because I think the queer community we have some work to do ourselves individually before we go out and tackle the world or even the larger community that we live in. But I think for last year for me was a year of self-discovery, and it wasn't due to my sexuality or anything like that. It had a lot to do with something that took place a few years ago. Essentially, my father had passed away, and it took a toll on me. And so last year, it was me discovering who I was again, me getting my life together again. And so I think we really need, as a community, need to work on ourselves and identify what our biases are, what our implicit biases are. I was talking to one of my friends tonight when I was on my walk, and I told her, and I hate to say this about my own community, but sometimes when I look at a picture of the 2+ community, it's just a bunch of white guys. And we all look the same. And so that's something that we need to be aware of. Like, we need to be aware of that before we start trying to bring that to the attention of other people. That we're not all the same. We are different. We're all diverse. And that diversity is the beauty of what makes up our community.
That is so true. It's interesting that you brought that up, because I feel like that sometimes in our community that we need to get rid of our own diversity. I mean, our own issues within our own community, so that we can truly come and stand together as one community and move forward. But here I am again, Shane, did you nominate me to be that person and just tell people to sit down and shut up and listen? I don't understand. But I will say, before we go to break, Stephen, I do have one question for you. Really quickly, because we are about to go to break, but you can start this now and finish it afterwards. Could you give us one example of a case that you've worked on as an advocate that you felt that was really hard for your client? Like, that's any specific, without giving specifics, I know, but could you give us an example?
When I was the LGBTQ advocate, I had an individual that came in, needed support. At that time, they did not want to come into the office because the offices that we work in, there's law enforcement is there. So I did tell that person that law enforcement was there, offered them to meet someplace else of their choosing. So I ended up meeting them at the LGBTQ Center in Guilford County. And we sat down and had our discussion there and did what we needed to do in that space where they were comfortable.
I like that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll need to pause here and take another break, but we'll continue our conversation about Stephen's work after a really short break. So stay tuned to Power Beyond Pride.
Welcome back to the last segment of Power Beyond Pride. We are here in conversation with Stephen Fletcher, the Director of Victim Services for the Family Service of the Piedmont. We were talking about, before we went to break, about an example of something that you have had to deal with being an advocate with a client. So I do want to stay on that track just a little bit, but shift just a little bit to your juvenile work. So it looks like you've been working in the foster care service and created a system of care for juvenile justice youth that the state office adopted in all 100 counties of North Carolina. What are some of the challenges that you have faced in getting that adopted? And since it has been adopted, do you still face some of the same challenges or new ones?
That particular program where that took place with the foster care and the juvenile justice youth, it was difficult because the 7 far west counties of North Carolina, just to be transparent, are not looked at as bringing a lot of knowledge to the table about certain things. I hate to say that, but that it is what it is. And so I moved to the western part of the state with my partner at the time. And that was interesting within itself to live in those counties. But we were like a hot commodity, I guess you could say, as in the community, because everybody knew us. They wanted us to come over. They wanted us to be part of stuff. And so I think initially it was because, oh, well, he's from the 7 western counties. So does he really know what he's doing? And then it stumped him when I said, no, I'm not actually. But I think a lot of that was just, it was the outcomes of, we were able to have proven outcomes of the kids in juvenile justice getting that chance that they deserve of restorative justice instead of being labeled so young on just being a bad seed. And that particular program was all about restorative justice and giving those youth the opportunity to change their life again and to give them the ways to do it and to help them sustain it. And we started it in this 7 western counties. It rolled up to a state level, and then the state it's now running statewide.
That's really powerful.
So it's rewarding. I think that particular work really helped with the fragmentation that the system has. It helped with the continuity of care that was needed, because in juvenile justice and youth, and even foster care youth, they fall through the cracks. And it's when services are not coordinated and when people are worried about getting credit for helping somebody instead of truly helping somebody for the right reason, this is when the kids get hurt. This is when they fall through the cracks. There needs to be more wraparound support, more trauma-informed care, and more early intervention for these kiddos.
Oh, thank you so much for that. Do you mind defining restorative justice for people who might not be familiar with the concept?
Yeah. So I think that the best way I explain it is just when you have someone that needs to go to prison because they committed a crime, you find out why they committed the crime, not because they're a bad person. You find out what happened. Like I joke all the time with my husband, what happened to you? Why are you like that? But ask those questions. Like, what happened? Try to understand that. And I think that really coming in at it from that. And again, I just say what I say, and it gets me in trouble sometimes. I'll say that. But at the same time, you're never surprised if someone said, did Stephen say that? Well, yes, he did. Or no, I know for sure he didn't say that.
Well, Stephen, we're going to ask you to say some things right now, actually. So
all right.
I want to thank you for joining us today and sharing your views and your story. A lot of insightful pieces that you've shared today. I know I'm moved just in being reminded about the impact of the work you're doing every day, as well as the challenges many of our queer community members have as organizers. And also celebrations. I want to acknowledge that too, like finding affirming spaces, finding communities in which you can do transformative work is really powerful. Well, right now we have a few rapid fire questions that we are going to throw out so the audience can get to know you a little bit differently. And are you ready for it?
Sure.
So, okay, Stephen, you have to say the first thing that pops in your head, okay? If you think about it too long, we will buzz you and move on to the next question.
All right.
Okay. What's the first gay kiss you can remember seeing in a movie or on television?
On television, it was probably on the old Roseanne show. Certainly not what I wanted to see. I think that the most memorable gay kiss, I'll say, was probably on Melrose Place when that was on, which that was a while back.
Well, right there. Yes,
the
it
original
will.
Melrose Place.
So you're, as a music fan and a former musician, what's your best Bandcamp memory?
Oh, I can't say.
Yes, you can.
No, I can't.
No, it's a secret. It's just us.
People, I'll just say this. People in band are wild. And I'm going to leave it at that. That's all I'm going to say.
I want to know more. What do you mean? Wild is very abstract. I feel like we need some specificity.
We play more than instruments.
Ah! All right. All right.
You know what? I'm going to leave that one alone because that was our response. I went to a Christian college and we used to always tell people we do more than just pray on our knees. So I agree with you on that, Stephen. All right. Praise the Lord.
What happens at Bandcamp stays in Bandcamp.
There you go. Well, you said you wasn't going to go any further, but I bet you I can get you go further with this one because this is just going to ease on in there. And I hope that your husband is not listening or in the room with you because I don't want to get you in trouble. But what's the best pickup line you've ever used to get some action?
I'll be honest. I've never used a pickup line.
Really?
I've never used one. If there was somebody I wanted to get a drink with, do you want to go get drinks? Like because I don't do the games and that's just nonsense. Just tell me what you want and I'll tell you if I'm going to do it.
You must be a Leo or a Scorpio. I
am a Libra.
One and the same, right in the middle. Yes, Lord. Oh, geez. All
right, what is your love language?
I'll say this, acts of service and quality time. But probably over the past 6 months, I would say physical touch.
Physical touch is awesome. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I'm about to say that must be a
Mattie's giving us side eye.
I was about to say, hey.
It can mean lots of things. It's great. I think actually there's a lot to be said for, I think more people would feel more empathy and engagement if they were less like challenged by physical touch. I mean, there's even studies and research that goes into the power of physical touch. And again, some of it's gender based. There's definitely some gender reads of that conversation, but like that we would all benefit from hugging more. So I'm gonna encourage lots of hugs and lots of cuddles.
Shane, have you ever done any type of advertisement?
Advertisements for cuddling?
No, just in general advertisement.
No, I mean I'd be gladly advertising cuddling and hugging.
Tagline. So you should make your next tagline: "A touch will move you."
She'll move you. I mean, it does. Thank you, Stephen. It's a great love language. I think that's awesome. And it's an important one. We forget how important that is.
It is. So, Stephen, first class or high-end dinner? Are you a bougie date?
I can get down with anything. I like a bougie dinner, but you can give me a red Solo cup too.
Hey, you up there in the Western state. All right. Yeah, you in the Western counties. I love it.
All right. Your first car?
It was a Oldsmobile Sierra.
An Oldsmobile Sierra? So that was like what, at least 30 feet long.
What color?
That was like, weren't those massive?
30. It was black. It was about 31 feet long.
I was right.
And I remember it having a V8 in it, but the whole reason why I got the car was didn't have any pickup anymore. My parents gave it to me because you won't get hurt in it. And so that was, and I couldn't.
Okay, so I have to ask because this is the ornery part of me, or not the ornery part, but how big was the back seat?
Oh, honey, I could tell you about that.
It was big enough.
It was big enough. That's a great answer. I love that. Big enough. I'm a fan.
Because let me tell you, my mom, the first car I drove was my mom's car, which was a Oldsmobile Cutlass Sierra. So I remember, and it had the bench seat in the front, the bench seat in the back. So it was big enough. Trust me, I could tell. Oh, praise the Lord. Stephen, what's your dream job?
Those are not pews in the front or the back, is what you're saying. All right.
My dream job? Yes, I would say I'm doing it now. I don't know that I've gotten exactly where I want to be with it, but I feel like what I'm doing now, I'm helping people grow. I'm helping people heal. I'm helping people reclaim their power. And I mean, why wouldn't that want to be a dream of somebody? There's, like I said, there's certainly more that I want to do to make a greater impact, but that is beyond the work that I'm doing today.
Any advice you'd give to a young queer person who's hearing your story and is that a good path for me? Is that the path I should go?
I think the best advice is be your most authentic self, find mentors, lead with purpose, not perfection. And all of our lived experiences are our strength. Somebody will get something from your lived experience. It's our opportunity. It's our responsibility to create these spaces by sharing our experiences with others to give them the strength to move on another day.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Yep.
That was beautiful. Oh, you just moved me in so many ways, Mr. Stephen. Well, for the people who are listening to us, can you please just give them a brief, real quick, where they can come to find you and follow you and support? What are your social medias?
I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Stephen Fletcher, it's my name. My picture. You'll see a wide variety of Stephen on social media.
Ooh,
a smorgasbord. A smorgasbord is Stephen, but not Bandcamp. But we will know a lot of other parts of Stephen from that. Wonderful. Well, I wish we had more time to continue this conversation, and I hope you'll come back and join us again to share more about your journey. It means a lot for us. So thank you, Stephen, for taking the time to be here. That's all we have for today's show. And as Stephen said, you can learn more about Stephen through the varying social channels. And obviously, we're really excited about the work you're doing with Family Services of Piedmont. So again, thank you. Thank you for doing that work as well. I'm Shane Lukas. You can find me at shanelukas.com or at greatidea.com and follow me through Shane Lukas at Blue Sky as well as on LinkedIn.
And I am Mattie Bynum, and you can find me at Mattie Simone 737 on Instagram. And you can find me also at Facebook at Mattie Bynum. Okay. And I also too want to thank you so much, Stephen, for coming on this evening. You have been an amazing guest. You have really touched my soul. Well, with the spirit of love of touching. Yes, you have touched and moved me. So I thank you for being here.
Love it.
You're welcome.
Remember to subscribe and get your friends to subscribe to Power Beyond Pride wherever you get your podcasts, and check out our site at powerbeyondpride.com, as well as following all of our socials there.
Power Beyond Pride is a project from A Great Idea, a queer-owned design and content agency. Learn more about them at greatidea.com. This episode is produced by Shane Lukas, the one and only, sitting over there in the Power Beyond Pride t-shirt, as well as our wonderful, beautiful Smita Sarka, who is our project developer, our amazing editor, Jared, and the always wise owl that we have in support is Mr. Ian Wilson.
And I'm an amazing co-host, Mattie Bynum. And Mattie and I are both part of this podcast host team, and we invite you to send in your questions and comments at powerbeyondpride.com. We look forward to queer change making with you at Power Beyond Pride.